So I'm at the bottom of page 2 of your notes handout. Important algebra facts to remember when we work with difference quotients. Almost all of the time, when the expression f of b minus f of a is gonna be some kind of polynomial or some kind of composite function, and we're gonna have to make sure we distribute the subtraction. So if you want to find the difference of 20 and 3x plus 20, you have to use parentheses around the 3x plus 20, so when you subtract it, remember to distribute the subtraction. So 20 minus 3x plus 20 gives 20 minus 3x minus 20 to simplify to negative 3x. It's a pretty common error to see somebody write negative 3x plus 40 because they just look here and see a 20 and a 20 and say, oh, I'm going to add them to make 40. But that's incorrect. You have to make sure you distribute that subtraction first. All right, second common error is just remembering how to raise a polynomial to an exponent. If you want to take the binomial 4 minus x and square it, that requires writing out 4 minus x times 4 minus x and performing 4 multiplications. So 4 times 4 to make 16, 4 times negative x to make negative 4x, negative x times 4 to make another negative 4x. The negative 4x is combined to make the negative 8x here, and the negative x times negative x to make the positive x squared. So you see the common error, which is just look at 4 minus x squared and think, oh, 4 squared and x squared. But don't forget that implies you have to write out that multiplication. It takes 4 multiplications to multiply 2 binomials. All right, so the whole reason we're using difference quotients is because it's our expression for slope. We're trying to explore what would happen if we compute the slope of a secant line and keep doing it, but then let the distance between the 2 points go towards 0. So that's why we care about the math for difference quotients. The whole goal is to find the slope of the tangent line instead of finding the slope of the secant line. So the slope of the tangent line we also call the slope of the curve at that particular point. So there's a place for this important formula at the top of the 3rd page of your notes. So the slope of the curve y equals f of x at the point a comma f of a is, m for slope, right? It's the limit as h goes to 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a all over h. So that's that same slope of the secant line with letting h go all the way to 0. So we're going to practice using that new definition, but it means we're going to have to do some algebra with these difference quotients and to use function notation. So we're going to have to figure out what it means to use the expression a plus h in place of x in a function rule. So just some notes there before we really get into that slope definition. If y is a function of x, so f of x is a function of x, f of a means replace all of the x's with a's. And f of a plus h means to replace all the x's with a plus h's. So example here, if f of x is 1 over x, f of a means 1 over a, f of a plus h means 1 over a plus h, f of smiley face means 1 over smiley face, f of, you get the picture. I'll do one more with you, so you can kind of get the hang of it. I'll let you try the last one on your own. If f of x is x squared minus 4x, f of a is, everywhere I used to say x, now I'm going to say, so a squared minus 4a. F of a plus h is going to be a plus h squared minus 4 times, don't forget your parentheses, a plus h. Okay, so you're going to try that last one on your own, and now let's talk about this example. If I have f of x is negative 16x squared, how can I find the slope of f at the place where x equals 5? Let me get this out of the way, and we'll try this one together. All right, so I'm going to use that new formula that you just wrote in here, and that I could get up from that other slide. Remember, it requires a limit expression, right? I'm going to take the limit as h goes to 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a. That's why I was practicing all of this. How do you use a plus h in the f function? Because I'm about to do it. So let's take a look here. I'm going to move me out of the way, and we're going to try this guy. So the slope of the curve at x equals 5. That's going to be the limit as h goes to 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a all over a plus h minus a, which simplifies to a. But we've been told the x value that we want to find the slope at, so that's our a. We're going to replace all our a's with 5s. So it's going to be the limit as h goes to 0 of f of 5 plus h minus f of 5 all over h. Now I have to figure out what it means to use 5 plus h in the f function. It's going to be the limit as h goes to 0 of, well, the f function says to take the f of x, right? It says take x and square it, and then multiply the result by negative 16. So I'm going to take 5 plus h and square it and multiply the result by negative 16. And then I'm going to subtract what I get when I use 5 in the f rule in the place of x. So it's going to be 5 squared, which should get multiplied by negative 16. That's, I see doesn't really look really good, so I'm going to try one more time. Minus 5 squared, which is going to then get multiplied by negative 16. This is all over h. So it's going to be the limit as h goes to 0. I'm going to have to do all that algebra I did back in 2.1. How can I simplify this expression? Because right now, if I replace h with 0, I'm going to divide by 0, which I know is not going to be good for anybody. So I'm going to have to multiply out that numerator, see if I can simplify in my numerator to look for common factors to try to cancel out. So it's going to be negative 16 times, I'm at the place where I multiply binomials in my head. You might not be. It's cool either way. Just make sure when you multiply 5, when you take 5 plus h and square it, that it takes you 4 multiplications. So it's going to be 25 plus 10h plus h squared minus, so I'm going to subtract negative 16 times, so I'm going to add 16 times 25. And that's all going to be all over h. I didn't make my bar long enough. I sometimes I never make my bar long enough. Okay, so this is where I'm going to start from on the next screen. All right, so that's where I was a second ago. I'm going to start to simplify. So I'm still taking the limit as h goes to 0. I still have to have my limit expression here because I'm not ready to substitute h in, right? Because I would have 0 in the denominator. It's going to be negative 16 times 25. I noticed that negative 16 times 25 is going to cancel with this positive negative 16, so positive 16 times 25. So now I'm just going to finish distributing that negative 16. It's going to be negative 160h minus 16h squared over h. If you're at the place where you can factor and cancel in your head, that's fine. I'm going to write it out in the factored version. That's the limit as h goes to 0 of h times negative 160 minus 16h over h. I know my h's are going to cancel, and I'm going to take the limit now as h goes to 0 of negative 160 minus 16h. Now I don't have a divide by 0 problem anymore, so I'm going to simply replace h with 0, and I'm going to get a slope of negative 160. So the slope of the graph of y equals negative 16x squared at the place where x equals 5 is negative 160. All right, so let's just finish up here. Can you use this slope to write the equation of the line tangent to f of x at x equals 5? Well, we said back when we were reviewing lines, to write the equation of a line, you need the slope, which we just found. We also need an ordered pair. So here, I'll write it up here. Just remember f of x was negative 16x squared. So I know my x is 5. So my ordered pair is going to be 5 comma something. It's my job. I actually have to go do this work to figure out what the y is. But that's going to be by finding f of 5. That's going to be negative 16 times 5 squared. Make sure you take care of the exponents first. So negative 16 times 25. If I have 16 quarters, I have $4. So equals negative 400. Okay, now I knew my slope from that last problem we were doing was negative 160. So here we go. I'm just going to use point slope form for the equation of a line. Y minus negative 400 is equal to the slope, negative 160 times x minus. Feel free to leave your answer in point slope form.